My name is Drake, running real estate here on YouTube. November is race month for the 2021 Little Rock Marathon. I will be attempting to break the elusive 3-hour barrier. Let's get right into it. Like I said, November is race month for the 2021 Little Rock Marathon. At Little Rock, my goal is to break the coveted 3-hour barrier. As you might suspect, the 3-hour marathon is definitely a difficult task. This is a story of perseverance and gratitude and what all we can accomplish if we let ourselves be and really focus on a goal. So if you don't like gratitude or perseverance and say you're an ungrateful person that likes to give up, it might make sense to jump off of this video right now. Since the fall of 2017, when I started my journey, I have worked my best to show all of the time, energy, and effort that goes into this pursuit through social media efforts. Running a marathon and finishing is a massive achievement. Running a fast marathon takes years and years and years of resolve, resilience, and total focus. Not only does your body transform, clothes that used to fit don't fit, but during this time your mind will change completely in the pursuit of the goal. My story is particularly crazy. I had some success relatively early on, and then I was humbled by injury and a global pandemic. During this time, I caught myself injured, I caught myself drinking too much, I caught myself changing careers, I caught myself focusing on running intently for a couple of months and then not. And that was all part of the journey. To be honest with y'all, and that's why we're here, I questioned myself if it was worth it to pursue a 3-hour and qualify for Boston so many times. So if you're out there watching and you've ever questioned something, then go ahead and like the video. This would be a great point to go ahead and like it. You don't have to subscribe, you don't have to do anything else, just hit that thumbs up. But for me, I was always rooted in the reason that I wanted to prove to myself and myself alone that I could run a sub 3-hour marathon. And this is important. It's okay to be motivated in the short term by external factors, but if that's the only thing keeping you in the game, you're going to fail. This is too grueling of a pursuit. It's too much of a lifestyle change. It has to be rooted in you, the inside, that you want to do it for yourself. That's the absolute only way that this can happen. What better way to really get into it than start chronologically? We're going back to 2017. In 2017, I was living in Wisconsin and I was competing in CrossFit competitively. We'll show the photo here. I tipped the scales at 193 on an almost 6-foot frame. I was pretty big. Today, my race weight will be about 163, so you can tell a massive change of 30 pounds over these 3 years. I was the strongest I've ever been and maybe ever will be back then in the pursuit of the sport of CrossFit. During this time in the gym, working through cross training, say 6 times per week, even at 180 to 190 pounds, I was still outperforming every other area of my fitness and running. When it was running day, I always competed really well, and that's how I knew that running might be the sport for me. And I just hit this wall where I was pushing so much weight on Olympic lifting that I just had no desire to go any heavier. It seemed kind of scary. It didn't appeal to me. I just hit that wall and I was like, that's it, I'm good. What's next? I love that grind and I still respect it. There's some great athletes in the gym. But for me, I wanted something a little more spiritual in my daily exercise. And over the next few years, I started to travel a lot with my job. So packing the running shoes was a lot easier than finding a gym wherever I was headed. My first real running event was fall of 2016 for a team relay through work. It's about 200 miles, is in the Ozarks in Northwest Arkansas. In 2017, I ran that back with a group of friends, and that was my introduction to distance running 7 to 10 mile legs through the Ozark Hills in the middle of the night. It was an absolute blast. Great memories from that time. Here we are, 2018, a lot more of the same for me going into the beginning of the year. This year I was toying with a few different lifestyle strategies. 2018 was the first year I took completely off drinking. I had a lot more energy to burn and I felt like I got my weekend mornings back, which led to more running. In 2018 was the last time I competed in the CrossFit Open, and then fully transitioned. Fall of 2018, my same group of friends competed in the Outback in the Ozarks yet again. And in 2018, I noticed a significant jump in my performance, whereas in 2017, I was middle of the pack for my group. In 2018, yes, there were a few faster guys that had some distance or triathlon experience, but I was right up there. I was competing really well, and that motivated me. I was motivated so much so that when I was in running shape, I decided to go ahead and check a marathon off of my bucket list and signed up for the St. Jude's Memphis Marathon on December 1st, 2018 in Memphis, Tennessee. I was 24 at the time, still weighed between 180 and 185. Have you ever felt entirely ill-prepared for something? Like you've done just enough work to actually do the event, but you know that you will not compete anywhere near your full potential? That was me on the start line of the St. Jude's Memphis Marathon on that day in December. And the race turned out exactly as you might expect. It was so bad that for a while there, I thought that would be my last marathon ever. Glycogen stores ran out and I hit the wall, mile 17, mile 18, and cramped and limped the rest of the way. However, I got a pretty good start, so I still managed to run a 3:56:44 marathon, which is respectable with your first marathon. Not enough to really turn any heads, but I did have a few people mention to me in passing, like, hey man, that's not bad for your first one, especially with what you weigh. Like, there might be something here, we'll see. And I swore I would never run another one. As I was limping off the course, I was like, that's it, I'm done, I'm a one and doneer, back to the CrossFit gym. And then that Monday at my job, my first order of business was signing up for the Little Rock Marathon in March of 2019, so 3 short months later. And 2019 was a year that changed the trajectory of my fitness forever. Memphis in December of 2018, on one hand, I was really happy that I completed my first marathon. But on the other hand, I raced at between 180 and 185, and I knew in the back of my mind that depending on how much I wanted to alter my body and get my weight down, I could run a whole lot faster than that. Either way, the performance was enough for me to know that I needed to get serious about the sport. In March of 2019 at Little Rock, I had somewhat of a proper coming out party. It was a rainy, windy, cold, it was just drizzle the whole time, tight day. And a bunch of my friends were there to support another one of my friends that had lost our fantasy football league and was punished to run the marathon. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sign up. This will be the one I run. Had a lot of friends lined along the course, and I ended up surprising myself running about an 8 flat average mile pace in a 3:32. So I'm like 5 months into distance training, and I knew where my heart was. I was a 3:32 marathoner with really only about 12 solid weeks of training under my belt. My peak mileage week in the 12 weeks leading up to Little Rock was about 41 miles. Solid for the time, but not to the miles that I'm consistently putting in now. Keep in mind, I did not run high school cross country. I ran 1 year of high school track. So in 2019, I had on the rose-colored glasses. My legs were fairly fresh, and I felt like I was PRing every single time I ran a race. I had no idea what I was doing, which included signing up for a summer marathon, and I ran a 3:28 at Run for Troops in Iowa. It was on a gravel trail, and when I walked out of my hotel room that morning, it felt like I was walking into a steam room at a gym, like the one that the old guys hang out in for a couple of hours. It was brutal, and I knew at that point PRing would be a major win. My mom traveled up with me, and she was feeding me pickle juice along the course because my old neighbor said that that was the best way to stay hydrated in a humid, hot race day climate, and I just want to put that one out of my memory. It was rough. It was horrible conditions for a marathon. I did not do my due diligence, and I did not realize that it was on somewhat of a dirt gravel trail, and I had on shoes that were not meant for that type of terrain. In driving back from Iowa on that hot summer day, I did realize that my training was paid off, that even in those conditions, I was able to gut out a 4-minute PR and run a sub-3:30.
Drake Breshears from Rogers, Arkansas. Followed right behind my veteran Cam.
Woo! Drake, you did it!
Look at this guy's tag. Let's give it up.
During this time, I began to view CrossFit as a cross-training platform and use that to still supplement. I worked diligently to perfect the craft of distance running and train any moment that I could. The year persisted, and ultimately I decided to run the New York City Marathon in November of 2019, which the best way to get entry is a fundraising entry, so that's exactly what I did. Since I ran my first marathon in Memphis for St. Jude, I decided to support St. Jude, and I fundraised $5,000 to gain entry into the marathon. Only a few world major marathons, and here I am 11 months in, training really hard, showing up in New York City, being bused from the public library to Staten Island with the finish in Central Park, 45,000 people on the course. It was crazy. Like, 11 months seems like a long time, but to go from never running a marathon to running in that race was completely surreal. A lot of good runners, just an amazing experience. In preparation for the race, my goal was a 3:15, and I was sticking very closely to a Runner's World 3:15 programming. At this point, I didn't have a coach or anything. I was just going based off what was prescribed that day. And I'll tell you guys what, the unthinkable happened. We actually drew the perfect weather. I'm not even kidding. Like, if you can draw up weather for a marathon, it was November of 2019 in New York City. It was perfect. So woke up in the city with 45 degrees, rising to about 50. Sun's beating down. The wind is minimal, like around the 5-7 mile per hour range, which is basically nothing. Humidity's low. It was excellent. Crossing the bridge, forget what it's called, but from Staten Island to Brooklyn was surreal. And I rode the wave. I ran the first half in 1 hour and 31 minutes, which would put me on pace for around a 3 hour to 3:02. And keep in mind, I'm going for a 3:15. And then crossing over into Manhattan, felt something in my calf that had been bothering me a little bit in weeks prior. Slight calf tear, finished the race, ran the back half at 1 hour and 36 minutes, 35 minutes, and finished at a 3:06:27, which blew my expectations out of the water. Not even a year into running, I was the 1,001st American across the finish line at the New York City Marathon, outperformed, and that's when I just knew, like, this is definitely it. I'm gonna go for the sub-3. Wouldn't recommend this, but the day I finished the marathon, I boarded a plane to London and did a Europe tour. Really rough plane ride, but awesome experience. When I got back to Fayetteville, Arkansas, my first run back, that calf that was aggravated during the race was torn. Borderline grade 1, grade 2 calf tear. My friend Sam had to pick me up, take me back off the trail, and that started 2020. This was the moment when I realized that my rise in distance running so quickly was somewhat of a fluke. Sure, maybe I was slightly more of a natural than the next guy, or a little bit crazier, maybe a little better aerobic base, but it didn't matter if I didn't take care of my body. With my full-time job, I had ran, but I'd never really focused on recovery, and I paid for it, ending up January of 2020 in an MRI tube with a diagnosis of about 12 weeks off of running completely, right when I was going to start pushing for the sub-3. 2020 was a year that broke me physically, mentally, and spiritually, and I do think it is also the year that is going to make me a winner in this sport. I know I cannot be alone on how my 2020 went. So that 12 weeks off took me from being a 3:06 marathoner to about a 3:35 to 3:45, I estimate, based off my relative fitness. So it almost took me back to square one, like I was just starting from scratch again. At this point, I really had a decision to make. New York was a great memory, would have been a great way to go out. It was a great race. Friends lined the streets up in New York, and part of me wanted to leave that goal in 2019 and just move forward. Couple that thought with a broken body, a global pandemic, a career change, fundamental shift in almost everything in the world, and I was about ready to throw in the towel. I had developed a major fear of re-injury of the calf. I tried to come back too soon, which is not advisable. And all of this led me to a sports massage therapist in Fayetteville, Arkansas that I had met during the Outback in the Ozarks days. Showed up at Ariel's door and said, "Hey, I have to come see you every week. I cannot keep running and not take care of myself," and I've made good on that promise ever since. Seeing a massage therapist every week really changed my mental game and helped me understand my body a lot better. Ariel told me later on that when she first saw me, one of my calves was twice the size of the other one from overcompensating and trying to come back too early and guarding through the fear of re-injury. And that led to a ping pong effect all over my body, from one of my calves to my knee to my hip to my shoulder. I was completely screwed up. My running gait looked terrible, and it was so difficult mentally to want to get back out there and keep pushing forward. However, I kept showing up. Even when I actually asked her a few times, "Is this worth it? Should I quit?" I was working through those things in my mind. Kept showing up every single week. My mileage was down that year, but I started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And I salvaged the year somewhat in the last 3 to 4 months, competed in a half marathon in December and tied my PR. And that's when I knew I was back and I was ready to take on 2021. Through all of the adversity, here we are. 2021 is the final act of the sub-3 pursuit. After the roller coaster that was 2020, I ended up in 2021 mission-minded, solely focused on the sub-3 goal with almost no other concerns. 2021 has taught me about sacrifice on a whole nother level that I didn't even know existed. To really compete in long distance with no real running background, you have to find every single advantage you can. For me, that was investing thousands of dollars over the course of the year into my recovery and finding a designated day of the week to only focus on that. The recovery process includes sports massage therapist 1 to 2 times a week, chiropractor twice a week, cryotherapy weekly, infrared sauna weekly, only healthy foods, vegetarian diet, shakeout runs on my off days, you name it. It just keeps going on and on. Stretching, yoga, everything centered around this goal. For the upcoming race, I have averaged 50 miles a week over the last 13 weeks and will for the next 3 leading up to it. For a more digestible scale, in October of 2021, I ran 263 miles, good for about 8.5 miles per day, or 3 to 4% of my total time alive spent out on the trail or the road working on running. I haven't accomplished my goal yet, I wanna make that very clear, but I hope that through this video, you guys can see the evolution that I've never really packaged from 2017 into now with my mindset and some of the trials that I've gone through. If you enjoy videos like this and you wanna see running real estate take off, please hammer that like button so that YouTube will push this video. My name is Drake, running real estate here on YouTube. Today I rehashed my running journey from 2017 until current day. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.